Long Live the Legion. Here's one of my personal favorite stories, Superman and the Legion of Superheroes, which just is such a nifty, really well written, moralic tale of superheroes. You have Superman, of course, hanging out with the awesome Legion of Superheroes from the 31st century. And it's one of those stories that's really a treat for people to read because it has such iconic characters compacted in a 6 issue, non-complicated, very fun, very personable story. In this case, what we're talking about is you have a lot of the Legion, so you have Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, Saturn Girl, and all of them kind of being thrust into a terrible situation where, the rejects of the Legion of Superheroes have basically outcasted them, and now Legion is on the run. The world in the future is trying to hunt them down, and present day Superman comes to help out. And what works really well in the story is you have a lot of themes that are being used. And the Legion of Superheroes with Superman have such a rich history. If you haven't read it, please go check it out. This story, even if you don't know a lot of it, is still a really good story in itself because Jeff Johns, again, brilliantly written. Gary Frank and John Sybil, again, create some artwork that just is life beyond the pages. It's really nice. And in here, when we're talking about Legion and Superman, the theme is of family and belonging. And you have this horrible situation where Superman's family, in this case, is being terrorized. And so in this case, he's not going to leave his friends to be defenseless against an enemy. And so even though in this world, Superman, he's lost his powers because, there's no yellow sun anymore, the sun's been turned red. He's, like a normal other person, but when your family's in trouble, you got to do everything you can to save it. So please check out this story. This is one of those stories that's not only a lot of fun, but it reflects a lot of morals, and it's just a really good read. Once you've read a little bit of the lore of the Green Lantern Corps, then the biggest treat ultimately to get to is the Sinestro Corps War. Written by Jeff Johns. This is, again, a reason why Jeff Johns just knows how to write Green Lantern and knows how to create a complex relationship between him and his former teacher turned arch enemy, Sinestro. Now, the Sinestro Corps War is a huge undertaking that has a lot of references and it has a lot of future insights into some of these bigger events like Blackest Night and Final Crisis. But this is one of those stories that really meets a lot of the hype. In this case, you have Sinestro who's been outcasted, and now he's come back and he's created his own corps of warriors, the Fear Lanterns, or the Sinestro Corps. And now they're coming. They're waging war on the Green Lanterns. This is a violent, intense, pretty massive undertaking in the sense that it is so large and it encompasses so many elements of what makes a good intergalactic space battle really interesting. You have your characters like Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, you have Jon Stewart, Kilowog, Guy, Sinestro, a lot of new characters. It's a scary story in a sense because the Green Lanterns have never faced something as tough as this. And so, with Sinestro harnessing the power of Parallax, you have a lot of really great iconic moments that are going to shake the foundation. And I just gotta say, utilizing Superboy, and okay, this is the thing, there's some spoilers right here, but utilizing Superboy Prime and the Anti-Monitor as well as Cyborg Superman to be heralds of the Fear Corps is quite amazing. There are so many moments in this story that made me just almost have a mini heart attack from how excited I was. From page to page, it just built and built, and it felt like I was reading, something on par with the Iliad, but better because the pictures are sick and the action is nonstop. And so this is one of those stories that's really worth all the hype and has a lot of really cool focuses, but most importantly, it's a kind of a revenge story. It's a final love story of revenge towards Hal Jordan between Sinestro and Hal that really culminates very well. The ending is great, and it really puts the forefront of what's a good Green Lantern story. Please check this out. It's really good. The Alien franchise isn't only wonderful to check out, through movie medium, but it's become a big part of popular culture, especially, with Ridley Scott creating the whole alien mythos and also bringing in other elements from other directors like Predator and now creating Prometheus. Here, the Fire and Stone series, which ties together characters from Prometheus, from Alien, and from Predator in a huge expanding world, and it kind of treats as a filler story to kind of showcase other things that are going on within this horrifying universe. And as the comic really suggests, this really is a hell of a ride. If you like Prometheus, if you like the elements of the Alien lore, this is quite honestly the comic for you. beautifully detailed in the way that it's actually drawn. The human characters take center piece, but realistically, you're here to see them survive against hordes of alien monsters, and as well as the engineers who come forward. Lots of cool new character designs, so you get a better idea of what the alien world looks like. So it's not just your standard movie monsters you've seen before, but a whole new area of different kinds of creatures. So it's very exciting to read, and from beginning to end, you don't know where it's gonna go. It's a very hard story at times in the sense of it's kind of bleak. The tone is very set in stone, but again, it's a wild ride that you should really check out. And I think this is really good essential reading, especially if you're a huge sci-fi fan. Batman and Joker have a very iconic relationship, and if you want to read something that's different, especially from the New 52, check out Batman Volume 3, Death of the Family. This is Joker at some of his most demented, especially considering that his face is actually off of his skull, which is pretty sick. It's a deranged love story to the great Batman, and you kind of get an idea of why exactly Joker and Batman are perfect opposites of each other. The ultimate archetype of good and evil, right and wrong, insane versus intelligence, however you want to put it. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo put together a story that is not only memorable, but it is filled with so many moments that not only capture your eye because the color scheme is beautiful, but it just feels so dark. It feels so creepy. And that's the perfect sense because that's what the Joker is. You can write him as a crime boss. You can write him as an insane man, Heath Ledger. But in this case, you get a sense of a man who's completely lost all semblance of reality and is, trying to showcase to Batman that, hey, we are built for each other. I love you in my own sick and twisted way, and the only way for you to be stronger is for me to take away your family. And so there's so many different elements going on in this story that makes it such a fantastic read. Before this, of course, you have the Court of Owls, which we'll talk about at a later time. But Volume 3, Death of the Family, if you kind of want an idea of where the Joker went and then Joker's return and what that means for Batman in the New 52, this is the perfect story to start. Breathtakingly creepy, awesome, and just splendid in so many ways. It'll make you laugh from the very first part to the very last page. By now, many of you would have guessed that I'm a big Cyclops fan, and so it might be of a surprise when I say that Uncanny X-Men, Michael Bendis' run of Uncanny X-Men, is some fantastic storytelling. It's a story about these broken people, these broken X-Men, and how they have been shunned out by their former friends and colleagues and family, and now they're on the run. Cyclops is a wanted man, and these people band together with him because they disagree with the status quo of what the other X-Men are doing, specifically with Storm and Beast. And so you kind of have a new layer, a new dimension to the idea of what an X-Men story is. This is great storytelling in that sense because you don't know what's going to happen next. And some people will either band behind these wanted X-Men, or they'll go against them. And in my case, people argue that they're trying to make it seem like Cyclops is the worst person in the entire universe. And everybody in the Marvel Universe, for whatever reason, hates him. Like, yeah, I get it. Spoiler, he killed Professor X. But that motherfucker had it coming. I'm sorry. And in this case, I think they only make his characterization that much stronger, and his convictions are that much stronger. And he's there for the right reasons, and he's trying to do whatever it takes to keep his people alive. And that's what Cyclops does. And that's why I love this story, because it's a continuation of that. Now where the tables are turned, and now the world hates him. And before, he had to keep his people alive after the decimation event. Now, with his great friends, with Emma, with Magic, with Magneto, with the New Mutants, he understands that the job isn't changed. The world still hates them. And so now if more people hate him, he doesn't care. He has a job to do, and he's going to save his people. And that in itself is complex character writing, which I think is worth a read. And besides just the complex storytelling of Cyclops, as well as, Emma Frost and these other characters, you also have a sense of how cool it feels. It feels edgier. These are revolutionaries, as they say, and so you have these cool black suits that they make them look like bad guys. And I think that's also cool because it adds another layer of just that slickness, and they all look in the sweet black, with Magneto rocking that awesome on white, which is really cool. But besides that, it's also, you live for the moments. Cyclops and these uncanny X-Men trying to outmaneuver the Avengers, who are after them at all specific times. The Sentinels, all of these enemies just coming at them all at once, showing why Cyclops has such a brilliant mind for the tactical field. And it makes it makes, especially in a world of media savvy, and so now you're coming out with the hashtag Cyclops was right, we're coming for you, you're going to be afraid of us, we'll give you a reason to be afraid of us. Brilliant storytelling, and it just feels fun, it feels big, it feels epic. And besides the fact that it has such strong characterization, it also just has really, really fun comic moments that is the reason you go and read the comic book. So please, if anything, this is a cool run of the X-Men.